Hello, this video is to discuss learning objectives and success criteria and how you can use them to indicate the rigor and DOK level that you're asking of your students. So we've all heard the words learning objectives and success criteria before, but I wanted to ensure that we're starting with a common base. The learning objective is the statement that defines the expected skill or knowledge that students will acquire. Simply stated, what students will learn. Success criteria: action the student performs or product produced in response to the learning objective. Simply stated, how students show they can apply the learning. And that idea of application is an important one to keep in mind as we go through the rest of this video. So here are some non-examples, some what not to do's, and they are modeled on real examples seen in classrooms. Learning objectives: students will take the Civil War test. Success criteria: pass the test with at least a 5. At least the student knows that the teacher has a goal for them of being proficient, passing with at least a 5. But I don't know what I should study about the Civil War. I don't know what will be covered. And this is just not specific enough to really guide anyone's thinking, students or teachers. Learning objectives: students will be able to explain how to measure in moles. Success criteria: complete the exit ticket. What will I be doing on the exit ticket? Will I be explaining it all narratively? Will I be solving problems? What should I be prepared to do when I get that exit ticket? And learning objective chapter 3B, that's a huge topic. Chapters in textbook-based classes can cover a lot of information. And the success criteria of all 5 questions answered in Google Classroom also doesn't indicate for the student what they should be attending to as they read. So I've devised a sentence frame for use in writing learning objectives and success criteria. Learning in order to verb a product. The learn is the learning objective. What do students need to know? And verb and product is the success criteria. And if you write a sentence that logically flows from learning to product, then you know that your learning objective is very connected to your success criteria. So they are clear for everybody in terms of how I'm using the knowledge and how I'm showing that I know the knowledge. There are some real world examples. The English example, based on the standard below: students will understand analyzing inferences in the text, that's RL1, in order to compose an illusory poem and assess the impact an illusion has in a poem. So one thing you'll notice is that this standard stays for multiple days. Those success criteria will take me multiple days in order to achieve. Composing illusory poem could take 1 to 2 days. Assessing the impact an illusion has could take 3. But I'm able to keep the same learning objective because the students are deepening their understanding of that standard. A civics example: students will understand the role and limitations of the government, that's Civ 2, in order to argue the applicability of the First Amendment in a real-world situation, and interpret a Supreme Court decision. Obviously, very different levels of DOK, different levels of background knowledge needed, and it is connected, though, to that idea of roles and limitations because I have built a logical sentence that shows my students, here's the flow, and I'm showing myself, here's the flow of how I want this standard to go in my classroom. One thing I think is also important to notice is that I have not used the entire standard. Indicated at the bottom is that civic standard, the purposes, roles, and limitations of the structures and functions of government. If I were to begin breaking that down, the purposes and structures of government, the purposes and functions of government, the roles and structures of government, that can be broken down in many, many different ways. But I want to hone in on one chunk, which is the role and limitations of government. One more example, an economics example. Students will understand how market structures affect market outcomes. Again, when you compare it to the Econ 2 standard at the bottom, you will see that I have honed in on the section of the standard that I am diving deep with. Students will understand how market structures affect market outcomes in order to estimate production costs, design a supply chain, and justify cost to a consumer. So I have a logical building of students' knowledge, and I also have, as we're about to see, a logical growing of the rigor DOK that I'm asking of students. One more earth science example. Again, a very detailed standard that I'm building this off of. Students will understand how Earth's topography reveals its history, ESS 1.6, in order to prove or disprove a given statement on Earth's formation and construct a scientifically plausible formation story for a hypothetical planet. Again, one given statement, and I just prove or disprove it. That's a certain DOK level. Constructing my own scientifically plausible story is a whole nother DOK level. So, what exactly is rigor? It is academically, intellectually, and personally challenging to the student, and it encourages students to question assumptions and think deeply. Too often when we talk about rigor, we just say, well, this is not hard enough, or it's too hard. What does hard mean? I think when we think about that second statement of questioning assumptions and thinking deeply, we get to a definition of rigor that is really more meaningful as we construct a success criteria. So here's an example of Bloom's taxonomy. The way you read this is in the center is that DOK level, then verbs that you can use to construct those success criteria, and then suggested activities that would connect directly through to that DOK level. And we're living there in that verb section of our sentence frame. So the learning is based on the standard in order to verb. And this is helping you identify the level of DOK or rigor that you're asking of your students. If you are living in students will summarize, students will restate, students will confirm, then you know you're in that second level of comprehension, and you need to move your students around the circle to synthesis and evaluation. So how does that impact my backwards planning? Obviously, backwards planning is starting with an end goal and assessment created. The assessment dictates the steps needed to get the learners to proficient. So here's an example of how this builds for you a approach to backwards planning. Students will understand fitness plans. That's PE 2.1. That's indicated down in the bottom left corner. In order to describe the current fitness level, schedule a fitness plan with supporting explanation, analyze the success of their fitness plan, and construct a course of training in order to prove a target area. So we see the clear building of DOK from describe to construct. And it also shows me that if I, as the teacher, have an assessment of they will have a fitness plan, then I'm able to say the first step in that knowledge is describing what their fitness level is right now. And then they need to schedule a fitness plan. Then they need to analyze it. And then they need to construct the final course. Like I'm able to break down the needs step by step. So, learning in order to verb a product. This construction will help you indicate to yourself, indicate to your students, indicate to any visitor in your room that you are having students think and create rigorous products that have real world applications for them.